Hey, welcome everybody to the Talent in Strategy Show here on the Successes of Choice Podcasting Network. I'm your host, Jamy Bechler, and we appreciate you guys joining us on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Rumble, wherever you may be watching this, or maybe you're listening to it on the Successes of Choice Podcasting Network. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We want to remind you that this episode is made possible by our friends over at Affinity Recruiting and Consulting. Check out all their services at affinitytoday.com. Well, our guest today, we're very excited to have Steve Nudelberg on the show. Now, Steve is he's one of these guys. You've all probably seen the commercials. The Dos Equis guy, you know, the most interesting man in the world. Well, Steve might be in the running for that. Steve has done a lot of things in his career, but he is the man when it comes to sales, and that's why we have him on the show today. He's going to be talking about sales, but he is the author of Confessions of a Serial Salesman. We got the book here, so if you're listening to this, you can't see it, but Confessions of a Serial Salesman. He's also the host of the Nudelberg Daily Huddle, which is every morning on LinkedIn. You can see that LinkedIn Live. But all in all, this guy, he's a sales doer committed to helping others get on the ball and modernize the sales process. So, Steve, welcome to the show.
Thank you, my brother. It's great to spend this time with you. We've known each other quite a bit, following each other's careers, and anytime I can help a guy like you, I'm up for it. So
I appreciate that. We're gonna dive into the sales stuff, but if people want to get more of your backstory, you were on our podcast a couple of years ago, a few years. You were one of our first guests, actually, but people can see that at jamybechler.com/Steve Nudelberg, jamybechler.com/Steve Nudelberg, if you want to get more of your backstory. But I mentioned you're a sales doer committed to helping others get on the ball and modernize their sales process. That sounds awesome. How do people modernize their sales process?
So it's fascinating to me. The tools that the sales world, biz dev world are using are email, voicemail, cold calling, knocking on doors, all tools and tactics that are 50 plus years old. Please tell me anything else in your life that you use that's 50 years old. You listen to music different, you watch TV different, streaming, all the things that are happening have evolved, yet the sales world is stuck. Hey, hit the streets. Hey, make 100 calls. It does not work. When I get to speak, and I'm fortunate, I've spoken in every country you can imagine. I ask the first question. I go, if you don't know my phone number and I call you, are you answering the phone? Not one person lifts their hand. So I'm going like, who's answering the phone? Why would you do that? So for me, when I sold my last business, I was committed to understanding the tools that were being delivered, and they are continuing to be delivered to us, and then putting them in a system, because I've always been a process guy, a process that delivers, and use the sports vernacular, quality at-bats. I want quality at-bats. I don't want to be selling. I think the selling world is over. People don't want to be sold. When you're being sold, you don't like it. So I don't know why it's $1 billion category to teach people how to close. We spend no time closing. We spend all of our time opening, and the new tools allow us to do that at scale. So I think it's the best time to be in revenue generation, not in sales.
So how do we open? How are we opening more doors? How are we getting more people? Because networking. I know networking is a big deal for you. Yes. The relationship building, the people business. What are we doing wrong in that area of our lives?
Great question. So part of it starts with intent. If you wake up in the morning trying to sell something to somebody, you've already shot yourself in the foot, I think. If you get up looking to meet quality people, we have a little saying, OQP, only quality people get in the door. They get in, quality people will go out of their way to do something for you. So they may buy, they may share, they may do whatever. You may learn from them. But the whole mindset of getting up is that I'm going to go sell you something is a flaw. It's fatal. Boom, done. Okay, so how can I, especially, we were doing this long before the pandemic, which is why our company exploded. But when the pandemic shut down the physicality of things, I said to people, we're not, oh, we're socially distant. No, we're not. We're physically distant,
Right.
but we are socially more adept than ever, and more dialogue, more stuff. So understanding the toolbox, understanding that, for instance, LinkedIn, most people think it's a sales platform. It's actually a marketing platform. It has nothing to do with sales. Hence why you see idiots DMing people, hey, can I come? I want to talk to you about cleaning your office. Dude, I haven't had an office in 10 years, man. So what are you doing? Or I want to sell you Bitcoin, don't sell me anything. I'll give you the perfect storm of how this works. LinkedIn being a marketing thing, I can market who I am long before I market what I do. So my banker, right? I've had the same banker for 15 years. I don't even know what bank she works for. The names have changed and all the people have changed, but she's my banker. So she's more important than the logo on the door. She, if using LinkedIn properly, can market her. And here's the big paradigm shift that nobody really paid attention to. But the first yes in the sales process is, hey, I like you. If you didn't like me, Jamy, or you didn't like what I stood for, there's no way we're doing this podcast. This doesn't exist. The first yes is, I like you. What's behind the curtain? What's going on there? Maybe you can solve a problem for me. Maybe I can solve a problem for you. Maybe my next door neighbor has that problem. But all sales is generated from some solution to a problem, and people try and force their way into opportunity when we have a very systematic approach to meeting and creating relationships with people. And it's the fun part. Here's a great example.
Yeah.
So I'm big in LinkedIn. I have been for many, many years. I love this word influencer. What does that mean? I just do what I do. I share, real stuff about who I am and what I do. And I read what other people are doing. There's a guy named Rick Whalen. You can look him up. He's the president of Aflac. And he posts one day on a Monday morning about being a Jet fan and how miserable it is. The Jets had lost, no surprise. And he posted that. I didn't know that before. I jumped in that stream of conversation and said, only another Jet fan could understand that misery. I've been a Jet fan my whole life, man. I'm talking about 62 years of not having any success, So we instantly bonded on being Jet fan, created a time to speak. We didn't speak anything about the business, took that offline, went and smoked a cigar. And he looked at me and he goes, so tell me more about the speaking thing you do. And then he said, why aren't you doing it for us? And I go, I don't know. You want me to? Yeah. What does it look like? What does it cost? They're a very significant client of ours that was generated because of something we had in common. And that's all over the place. So LinkedIn is really this gigantic networking event where people are walking around with, here's where I went to school. By the way, it's the number one way to market. You run into somebody, hey, go Knowles, go Gators, roll Tide, Bond. You see somebody wearing that, a total stranger, take that success, put it into the business world, and there's nobody you can't have a relevant conversation if it's about something you have in common.
So be likable would be a number one, would be a top sales technique.
No,
just be likable.
No,
not be likable.
I'll tell you why. Be genuine, be authentic, be you. Whoever you are, there's somebody that's gonna like and want to have more dialogue.
Very good.
I have a lot of people that I've coached that the first conversation is, hey, I want to be like you. I want to do what you're doing. I go, don't be like me. There's only one me. Be like you. Be like you and show the world who you are, what you stand for. What kind of music do you like? What do you like to eat? What drives you? What's your purpose? And so we broke it up into 4 W's: who you are, what you do, who you do it with, and why you do it. If you can answer those questions in your upfront, or at least learn that from other people, that's where the connectivity is. And the world we live in is I don't have to waste any time. I could do it all virtually. And if there's a spark, you continue it. And if not, have a great life. You do your thing, I'll do mine.
So you mentioned this friend of yours, or this person that you have this mutual interest. You both love the Jets. I didn't know that there was two people out there that love the Jets, but bless your heart.
Man. We're diehards.
Bless your heart. No, but where is that balance between building, that relationship with person before you offer the sale? Cause you mentioned, he finally said, "Hey, what's this speaking stuff?" It took this Jets thing, but when do you know when I want to ask for that sale, or when do I want to say something? Because, just talking about the Jets doesn't make you money at the end of the day. Where's that balance at?
So there is no balance. There's patience. If there's patience to let it operate and breathe, if you go to coffee with somebody, what do you usually talk about? You're not talking about what you do for a living. You're talking about, hey, this is what's going on at work. I just got back from vacation. This is what's happening with the kids. You're talking about stuff. Stuff is the glue that puts you together. They want to learn more. So I think you earn the permission to talk about what you're doing. Most people don't have the patience. They get in any kind of dialogue with a decision maker, and it's like urgent. I need you to understand what I do and say yes. Whoa. So it's if you scaled the at bats. I mean, look at the best of the best. Derek Jeter, thousands and thousands of at bats. 3 out of every 10, you're a Hall of Famer. So it's just an understanding of the numbers. Where most people go wrong is they're not feeding the funnel with enough people. So they get a scarcity. There's like, oh my God, I have this opportunity and I better close it. We don't close anything. We open on a regular basis, and it takes its natural course. And those relationships are longer, stronger, and much more beneficial because they're grounded in reality, not about what I'm trying to sell you. It's like we genuinely like each other. We're learning from each other, and it's just not taught that way. And I'm proud that I taught my boys that throughout their whole life, that the relationship was much more important than when my son left college football coaching. I gave him the tools to do this, and he does it very well. Now, both sons who are in college football coaching are in the business, and they are leading other people down a path that allows you to show up differently. And so, people recognize it like, wait a minute, everybody else is up my ass trying to sell me something, and this guy's not. What's going on there? Why is he so confident, or what, and close bigger deals, longer deals. There's so much more loyalty. And it all starts with that OQP. If you're willing to deal with, people that have no integrity or no quality, you get that result. And I choose not to.
I love that. And I love the patience aspect of it. And I think back to, I know you're huge sports fans. Your sons were football coaches at the college level. And, me as a college basketball coach back in the day, I remember I would take shortcuts in recruiting and bring in kids that weren't fits for us if I felt like there was that scarcity. If I didn't have enough people in my pipeline or in my recruiting pool, if I felt like, well, if I don't get this kid, there's no one else. So I start overlooking all these negatives and red flags. And I imagine this is same in the sales process. If your pipeline's not very big, you start pressuring people, or maybe you get more stressed out, or you take shortcuts.
So there's people smell desperation all the time. I don't like to deal with people who are desperate. If I were to hire a new person today, I'd sit down and I'd say to them, listen, your job this year, because most people never really define it, is to meet 1,200 quality people. They would go, whoa, that sounds like a lot of work, man. I'm not doing that. Man, I didn't sign up for that. And I said, okay, but what happens if I was able to break it down for you and give you a process that you could do it? Like what? So are you willing to meet 5 new people a day? Yeah, I could do that. 5 a day, 5 days a week is 25 a week, 100 a month, 300 a quarter, 1,200 a year. You meet 1,200 quality people. How many of them or someone in their network need to react to you in a business sense to make it the best year you ever had? Most people say 5% or 10%. So the numbers are in your favor, man. Just do the work. The work is building relationships. People don't want to take the time or the effort. They want, can I put it on a credit card? Can I own it now? And it just doesn't work that way.
So I'm talking to you, trying to close a sale or trying to make a sale or however you want to frame it, word it. Oftentimes I'm thinking that the follow-up is oftentimes a problem for a lot of salespeople. Maybe they have their pitch, and I really hate using that word pitch, but you know, they think of it that way. They have their pitch, their strategy, but then there's not that follow-up, or more to the point, it irritates me when the only time I hear from a salesperson is when they want to actually sell me something. What about the follow-up? Where is that maybe in between from when one sale got done and I want that next sale to happen?
So if you genuinely like somebody, you generally go out of your way to do something nice for them. So all of this avoidance and rejection is you missed a bunch of steps in the middle in building the relationship, and people inherently don't like to say no. So it's like, oh, he's calling again. I see the phone light up. What am I going to do this? It's like inherent fear where I don't put people in that position. I never have. And I built multi-million-dollar companies. And my philosophy was, when you're ready to make a choice, I want to be one of the 3 people you talk to. And I planted the seeds just like that old farmer, conversation. You plant the seeds, you water them. Not everyone's going to be fruitful, but man, when you reap the harvest, that's when everybody's happy. And they go, wow, I wish I could have a harvest like that. Do the friggin' work, man. Nobody wants to do the work. There's no shortcuts here. It is building it brick by brick and then doing to others as you would do to yourself. I never call somebody and say, hey, are you ready to make a decision? I'll give you a better deal if you do it by Friday, because I don't like it done to me. If we check the boxes and you want to move forward, great. If you don't, what I don't stand for is when someone disrespects me, like ghosting me or, like, whoa, dude, what did you miss about us that makes you think that you're just not going to call me again? Like, you wanted the information, you wanted all this stuff. So our process of how we build and maintain healthy relationships is what makes us really successful. We've taken a combination of all the tools. We've built a cadence of what you start with, what you do next, when you do it, how many weeks in a row. So here's the thing. If I reach out to somebody 3 weeks in a row, and we have very unique ways of reaching out, video and GIFs and all that kind of stuff. If I reach out and you don't respond to me in 3 weeks, you're a space traveler to me. Gone. I've hit you 3 times. Unless you are the busiest person on the planet, I'm going to take it and say, listen, okay, you don't want to get back to me. Good. And that last touch is usually, look, I've tried every which way I can just to open up a dialogue with you. Appears you're not interested in meeting new friends. See ya. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, they might come running back or they may never respond. But that's why the best part of being in sales is there's always a new inventory of opportunity. It's never the one. If you miss a deal in January, you're not thinking about it in December. You're thinking about it in January. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe I lost that deal. And then it goes away. If you do the work, you just stay in the work. Very much like sports. 24-hour rule, man. You can lose, or win. You got 24 hours to do whatever. Let's get back to it, man. Let's go. Otherwise you create slumps. They're inherent.
Now, you mentioned that there's no shortcuts, but that's a big but. I would like to pick your brain. Are there some little hacks or strategies or fun things that you've done there's not necessarily shortcuts, but things to gain people's attention, to grab their attention,
Yeah.
whether it's to make a sale, or maybe it's just to stay top of mind between that sales cycle, maybe on the follow-up, or just, hey, I don't have something to sell you right this minute, but hey, I want to stay on your mind. Are there some fun little things, creative little things that you've done?
So it's very interesting. In a lot of the dialogues I have, it's very much like dating. If you meet somebody that you like, you're going to stay on their radar. You're going to do little. I'm going to bring them candy. I'm going to send them flowers. I'm going to do. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. I had a dialogue with somebody. It could be a very big opportunity for us, but I really wasn't pressing. But learning about that person, I learned that they were a monster Houston Astros fan. That's what they told me. We went online, and for $40, I bought the front page of the newspaper, framed and delivered to him. It cost me $40 to land on his plate. And I said, every time you see this photo, think of me. Like, funny, man. He got a kick out of it. He goes, it's kind of, he goes, no, I'm thinking of the Astros, not you. Great. We have this thing. Another guy, an architect in Denver, we had our conversation, and we were both from Brooklyn, and we were around the same age, and we got to talking about sneakers. And somehow the conversation was like, when I played basketball as a kid, if I wore Walt Frazier's Pumas, they were Clydes, they were like blue suede Clydes were the one to have. Like, and I had those, and I felt like I played better than I had Pete Maravich socks. And so
Yeah.
that was the thing. So we were in this dialogue, and when we got done, I reached out to his assistant, and I said, what size does Ken wear? Boom, she told me his size. I spent $60 to buy him a pair of blue suede Clydes. He said, dude, that's the coolest thing anybody's ever done for me. And he sends me pictures of his, putting his feet up on the table with his blue suede. So there's this thing in life that you can surprise and delight anybody. The little extra mile, it has nothing to do with selling, because he's told every single person that he knows what I did for him. Spread the gospel, man. You never know where it's coming inbound if you do the right thing. So where people go wrong, and these are the words that we talk about, they have no patience and they have no consistency. They're hot in the gym, baby. Everybody's in the gym in January. 45% of people who have New Year's resolutions already quit. So it is consistency. When we talk about, how to be successful, habits compound, and so when you do the right thing, just like money compounds, same with behaviors. I have positively impacted my life by the right behaviors. You're an Ohio guy. You actually look like James Clear. James Clear is an Ohio guy. The book Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
The best book ever written. To me, it's the roadmap. Now, interestingly enough, I spoke at an event where he was, and I went down early like I normally do. My speech wasn't until later, but he was down there early. Me and him, I introduced myself, and I said, look, I'm a coach. I do this and that. I said, but my whole theory is 27 rules for leaders and influencers, which is what my book is about, habits. His book was about habits. We had this amazing conversation.
Yeah.
But you talk to anybody that's successful, they have their life. Tom Brady, LeBron, they have 11 coaches. They are eating right. They're sleeping right. They're mentally, conditioned. They're physically conditioned. It's that success leaves clues. Salespeople just don't pay attention historically. And there are some really great salespeople. There's a few great sales coaches. Most of them are telling you could be rich overnight. Buy my program and you spend $300 with me and you will make $1 million. No, sorry, it's not happening. So I find it comical because you know what? It's like baking. No matter what ingredients you put there, it takes a certain amount of time to bake the cake.
But I want it in the microwave. I want it now.
Which is where everybody goes wrong. And so we work with people in 30 and 90-day increments, measuring behavior if you have the right behavior, the outcomes come. But the way we're being taught and trained is your quota for this year is this, hit the streets and go get it, which is devastating. They're burning out young people left and right because they're going, I don't even know how to do it, let alone see, that number. Show me how to do it. Work with me, build me the right plan. And that's what coaching is in football and basketball, is you're teaching young athletes how to be men and how to deal with distraction and, losing. And who's doing that to the sales world? Not many.
Yeah, that's a great point. But you mentioned the word desperation, and I know I see that in people when they're trying to sell me something. I can tell if they're desperate. I also can feel that in my own self. When you've had a dry month and having owned all these businesses, myself being self-employed, early on, sometimes it feels like you're either unemployed or self-employed, depending on the day. And sometimes, you'll have a dry month or a dry week, and it's like, hey, I've got to make these sales. And you start to get desperate, and I think that was a good word that you used. And the patience thing. How many times do you see somebody that tries to do something LinkedIn Live or tries to start a podcast or tries to write a book or whatever, and they don't get the results just like that, and they quit?
They're out. Right. I mean, we are students of the game. So I've been in LinkedIn, 8 or 9 years, maybe more. When I was starting up, there weren't that many people in it. It wasn't, everybody thought it was a recruiting tool. So that's not for salespeople or business people. Well, the more people that have come, the more, if you do something, you're going to get success. But we see people come in like a house on fire, and then 30 days later, they're gone. Keep the pace. Do things consistently. And I think that's true of everything in life. If you create the right way to eat, the right way to sleep, drink the right amount of water, have the right process for what you do for a living, it removes all the stress. Like, I don't worry about the outcome. We've been thankfully uber successful, but it could have easily not been uber successful. All I can tell you is success at the end of the day, and John Wooden said this, is knowing I did my best. Most people don't do their best. They cheat themselves. They look for those hacks. I don't really need to prospect today. No, you do. Every day. That's the lifeblood of new business, is prospecting and creating opportunity, not selling. And, when am I going to be successful? When am I going to, it's like that movie, are we there yet? No, not yet. I'm 62. I'm not there yet. You're never there. There is no destination. It's just what we do. And if you do it great, you wind up doing it with passion and love. And, all the people I get to be around are like, seriously, we did a podcast. My son and I did a podcast on Tuesday, and the other people that were guests on this podcast prior to us, they did like a rolling window. I was like, okay, this can only get bad from here. Like I told the host, he was laughing. I go, look at that lineup of people you've had. But, people want to be told stuff. They don't necessarily want to do it.
Oh, absolutely. And, I fall into that bucket sometimes. I want the hack, or give me that quick strategy. When at the end of the day, yeah, those are parts to it, but you got to have your why, and you've got to have a good vision, and you've got to have a good process, and be consistent. You've said that a lot of times today, is consistency.
So, I'm really into this whole idea that, and I do this with a lot of my CEO clients. I ask them, write down how many roles you play in a day, whether they're a female or a male. And you're a father, you're a brother, you're an uncle, you're a CEO, all of the business and personal, and I consider them hats. Well, think about what hat you're wearing when you're acting like a victim. So you're either a victim, you're a villain, you're the hero, or you're a guide. And so if you can pick what role you want to play, you'll instantly go, I don't want to be the victim here. I could do something about it. What's next? Okay, this happened. What's next? What do I need to do next? And I learned that from all of the coaches that I was around when I owned the sports marketing company.
Yeah.
Nick Saban was like, he didn't get caught up in the fact we threw an interception. What do we do next? What's happening next? We did that. I can't do anything about it. So, the words are so powerful when you talk about discipline, consistency, patience. All of this stuff seems pretty simple, but controlling the controllables. Most people are fired up because their plane is late or they're in traffic and there's nothing you can do about it, man. It's like, so why waste the energy to do that? That takes unbelievable mental conditioning. But when you put your energies behind the things that matter, the things that you control, when you wake up, what you put in your body, what you listen to, like people listening to stuff like this,
Yeah.
this is a commitment. This is a choice. You can lay there and bitch all day, or you can listen to positive stuff. But they get up in the news and they watch the news in the morning, and it's like, I tell people, I go, listen, dude, if the world ends, you will know. I promise you, you will know. You don't need the news to tell you how many people got killed and how, it's terrible. It's just so bad that if you're willing to turn that off and turn on and feed yourself positive stuff, you have a much better shot at success.
Absolutely. So tell our listeners, give them a brief rundown of where they can get your positive stuff. What's the things that you're doing? Remind them where they can find you.
So I wrote the book, and the book was people said, wow, you've been successful in a couple of different venues. Do you have a process? Yeah. So I wrote my process, and I'm proud to say there's 8-year-olds and 80-year-olds who have sent me notes about reading the book, and they send me pictures. And so everybody has a story about the book, and I love that to such a degree that I pushed my son to write a book, and he wrote a book, Family, Football, and Failure. And it is basically the extension of him growing up under my rules and how he adapted those rules to him. It's a fascinating read. So there are books, there are podcasts. So we do the Daily Huddle every day. It's fresh, new content that we're bringing, very much like this, but it's live. You can jump in, you can ask questions. We're fortunate to have a very loyal audience that we've built. And then I post regularly stuff that I think is relevant for people to pay attention to. Like here's one. Like people go, what they would reach out to me and they go, like, what are you doing in these times of uncertainty? And I'm like, when was it ever certain, man? I'm like, what? Nobody just said, hey, do this and you're successful. It's like, right. So I find, very much in the Seinfeld mode, I find what people say and do, I find their behavior comical. You want to get something done, write it down, build a list, follow the list. Man, it's not brain surgery yet. Most people don't write their goals. Most people don't write down, their activities in the morning. Write it down. I just started a new nutrition plan that my son's put me on, and I have it pinned to my refrigerator. It's like, this is not hard, boys and girls. 100 ounces of water, 150 grams of protein, vegetables in between, boom, done. Get a lot of sleep. And, and guess what? I didn't pay anybody to do that. So I think, information is everywhere. I'm a student of the game. And my process came from looking at somebody that I met or I interacted with their content and said, that's a good one. I can put that in my process. Perfect example of that is I was fortunate to meet Tony Robbins early in his career. His VP of sales was a friend of mine. They would go city to city trying to sell out an auditorium, which if there's a harder job in America, I don't know what it was. But those guys really, like a circus, man, picked up the tent and went to the next town. So I got to learn a little bit early on from Tony. And one of the things I learned was this thing about gratitude. Gratitude's a boomerang, man. Get up in the morning. First thing you do is focus on 3 things that you're grateful for. You can pick them out. It could be the sun. It could be the air. It could be your family, friends, your food. It doesn't matter. Write them down. Write down 3 things you're grateful for. And the more you are grateful for, the more things happen to you that you can be grateful for. It's unbelievable. So thoughts become things. Thank you from the movie The Secret. Whatever you're thinking about, you're manifest. And, so I know I'm committed to being the best I can be. That's success. I know I was committed to being the best parent I could be to my boys, and I made lots of mistakes. I've been divorced a couple of times, so I don't do everything great, but I know where my heart is, and I will never have anybody say I cheated them out of anything, ever, ever. Not a shot, can't happen, full on integrity. And people notice that. This is a great one. This one last year was voted in all of my speeches was the number one takeaway. Do you ever meet somebody who, as they're talking to you, they're telling you something that that they're completely full of shit and won't do it? You just know it. It's just unbelievable. It's like, but we have accepted that as part of okay behavior. So I focused on a say-do ratio. And the more homework I did, most people, and there were scientific studies done, most people say 5 things to 1 thing that they'll do. So I said, okay, here's a simple hack, right? If you just do what you say, your life will change and everybody around you will notice. Pretty simple. Say, do. I had more CEOs tell me, dude, that changed my life and my whole company, because we were all feeding each other a line of crap that, now I will get that to you Friday. And guess what? Friday comes around and it's simple, yet nobody does it. And I have tons of stories, client stories, my own stories of where I said I would do something and then woke up in the morning and went, did I really say I was going to do that? I don't want to do that, but I said I would do it. And that means showing up at a charity event or doing the dinner or whatever it is. If you do what you say, your life will change and everybody around you will notice.
Yeah. I love that. We talk way too much, and I work with coaches all the time. Coaches, love coaches, but coaches tend to talk a lot and they don't always do what they say. They don't always do the things they're telling their athletes to do. And especially at the college level in recruiting, they tend to, market way too much. They tend to throw out stuff way too much and not back that up. So yeah,
we don't hold anybody accountable for what they say. The people in my world, right, see significant shifts in their lives because they're all accountable to each other. You said you would do that. Okay, you're right. I'll, boom. And it seems like it should be easy, but it's not. It's really not. And the first person you lie to is yourself. If you say to yourself, I'm not going to eat chocolate, all of a sudden you're like craving chocolate, and you think it's okay to eat chocolate. You just said you're not going to eat chocolate. What are you doing?
Well, absolutely. Well, Steve, we really appreciate your time. This is awesome. Follow him or check him out on theballventures.com. Is that the best place to get most of your stuff?
At Nudelberg, anywhere on social, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, very visible. I respond myself. I don't have anybody doing my social media. So it is me. If you send me a LinkedIn request, send a note where you've heard of me or where you know me from. Otherwise, I don't accept people just coming in. And some of the best relationships I've developed are people who I've asked, hey, how did you hear about me? And we got in a dialogue. So it is a, real etiquette in the real life transfers to virtual. Walk up to somebody and say, hey, I like what you said, or I know someone, or I saw, something that ties you together.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate it. We appreciate your time. This was great insights. Everyone out there watching, I hope you tune in next week as well. Next week, we'll be back here next Friday at 11 o'clock Eastern time. So remember, until next time, remember that success is a choice. What choice?